behind the keys, the vMix master himself, Mr. Mike. Thank you for joining us today as well. Tess, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I just got back in the office from maternity leave. So it's been a whirlwind getting back in the ringer. And this is my first live stream of the year and since October.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
it wasn't the same without you here,
Oh,
Tess.
I
So
appreciate
we're so
that.
happy to have you back. So if you guys don't know, we are the Stream Geeks. We haven't been too public on this channel in terms of a podcast. We're always posting videos. We're always talking about the latest and greatest. But we want to bring the podcast back. Basically, every second Saturday or every second Wednesday of the month, we'll be here live at 2 p.m. And we're going to be talking about just the latest and greatest in the streaming world. So the latest and greatest of the streaming world is CES, right, guys? That just happened last week. Everyone's talking about the new gear, the new tech, the cars, the gadgets. So we want to go into CES 2025 and look at all the cool stuff that's come out recently. So let's jump right into it. So, Paul, before we get to the CES talk, you went on a little ice adventure recently. Tell us about what you were doing over in Iceland recently.
Yeah, I can actually share a little video clip from our stream. We're streaming a lot of sports, and we did tennis. We've done soccer, and this is my first time streaming hockey. In fact, we did lacrosse too.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. We used a YOLO box, which is super popular. We used vMix. We used instant replay. We did 4K at 60 frames a second. I don't know if Mike can show some of this footage, but we really wanted to kind of throw every toy at it. We wanted to throw every Blackmagic 4K recorder that we could. We wanted to have PTZ cameras, camera operators, and it came out great. I think this was the most complicated stream I've ever done. I'll show you guys the highlight reel. And I think really one of the highlights was the new PTZ Optics Studio 4K. This camera just looked so crisp, and we recorded it in 4K at 60 frames a second, and it just looked so sharp. I think it's the best looking streaming camera I've ever used.
Wow. That's great. I mean, I was there. We had so much. You're right. Was one of the biggest setups that I probably have seen you do, and I think you did a great job. There was a lot going on, a lot of different cameras, different cameramen, different platforms you were using entirely, but it came out really well, and I'm excited. I think when you do a live production, it's always takes a test or two, and then the trial and error, and then when you come back, you can improve on so many of those things you learned. I think we all know that streaming is trial and errors, and it takes some time to kind of get there to exactly how you want it to look and feel. And that's kind of what the Stream Geeks are about, right? You guys have been delivering content online for what, almost a decade now, talking about the streaming industry, the different platforms and tech that are used. So, Paul, I want to ask you a little bit about Stream Geeks. Like, how did Stream Geeks start? Obviously, PTZ Optics is a great PTZ camera company, and where does Stream Geeks fall into it, and like what was the goal originally when you were making Stream Geeks?
You know, it's funny. I think I have this. I've stuck to my exact same story, which I remember Tess and I trying to figure this out. But it came out of a meeting where I remember pretty well still to this day. The engineers / team that we worked with was like, you can't post all of these videos about OBS and vMix into the clutter of what was becoming PTZ Optics in the early days. And so we were like, uh-oh. Because like obviously I had a lot of energy, wanted to talk about OBS, wanted to dig deep into vMix and different software. And Tess and I were like, we need to create another brand. And I remember, Tess, I think you came up with the StreamGeeks name.
We did together. We had a list. I wish I had the list so we could remember some of the names that we didn't select, but we had a list of names. I remember that much. And StreamGeeks just felt right. And the aim is with StreamGeeks to educate our audience on live streaming in general and not be specific to one brand or company. So the goal is to educate our audience and make connections with them. That's what StreamGeeks is all about. And okay, so I'm already getting questions. So do you care?
Sure,
let's go.
Okay, Studio 4K, does it go 4K over SDI?
So it does not, as far as I know, do 4K over SDI.
Just HDMI.
It does HDMI. Now, for this production, we actually, because SDI is so easy to run long cables, we actually were using HDMI to SDI converters with some of our Move 4K cameras to bring them in, because we were kind of going over the top. We were doing 4K 60 over HDMI and then 1080 60 over NDI. But you can do 4K 60 over NDI as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Yeah, and let us know where you're watching from at home. Let us know when did you start first in watching Stream Geeks, and tell us a little bit about your journey into streaming. We would love to do that and hear all about how you got started. I also love the catchphrase, if you dream it, if you can dream it, you can stream it. Who came up with that? Was that you, Paul?
I sort of remember one
It
of our.
wasn't me.
I remember Julia, our marketing person, when we were doing the first Stream Geek Summit in New York City in
Did
2019.
Julia come up with
Wow.
I think she helped us have that printed.
Thank you, Julia.
That's amazing.
Also, I wanted to mention we are streaming for the first time ever in 4K 60.
That's right.
So
Whoop, whoop.
I do have the option to watch it in 4K 60. So if you've got the bandwidth, try that and let us know if you're watching in 4K 60.
Yeah, please let us know where you're watching from at home. And that's kind of our goal this year, right? Sports 4K 60. We want to show the market that, PTZ Optics cameras, and there's so much amazing content out there that, should be in 4K, right? There's a lot of people that are limiting to 1080 for various of reasons, but we're trying to break down those doors to show why you should and you can use 4K in 2025. So there's a lot going on. CES, like I said, is coming up. We're going to chat about that soon. We're going to go over all the books
It's
and
past,
amazing.
you mean.
Yes, well, we're talking about it coming up soon
Oh,
on the
I see what you're
podcast.
saying. Coming up soon.
CES was just last week, but we'll also mention a little bit about Paul's books. He's created a lot of books throughout the years, and he's created a lot of content that can really help educate you, whether it's NDI, OBS, or vMix. There's tons that we can kind of learn from those books. So we'll chat about those a little bit. But let's move on to CES 2025. Mike, I know you have some slides back there and some videos for me as well. So like I said, is a booming year for the Consumer Electronics Show. So much happening, so much going on. Before we jump into some of these selected, very specific streamy type products and cool new features, was there anything at CES 2025 that like jumped out at you? Is there, I know the new Honda car everyone keeps talking about. Anything, Paul, that jumped out to you?
I think the big one for me was obviously the Nvidia graphics cards, the
Of course.
5090s.
Yep.
I've been trying to do 4K 60 on my 4090 laptop that I bought, and I just doesn't have enough horsepower to do like 3 or 4 cameras at 4K 60 ISO recording. So while the 4090 is great, apparently this 5090 is twice as good, and it's not twice the price. It's only a little bit more. So I do think the 5090 is going to unlock some of these 4K 60 workflows to make it more reasonable. Because even today, like Mike is having some issues with 4K 60. Our audio sync is a little funky right now.
Yeah.
And it has to do with just, it's a lot of data.
Yeah.
And I bet you 4K 30 would actually be fine. Honestly, it's that 60, just trying to take something that's already giant and then double it.
Yeah. Let us know at home. What are you using? Do you use 1080 30, 1080 60? Or if you do use 4K, do you go up to 60? Is it worth it for you? Let us know in the chat if you think that's something that you're interested in or something you'll do in the future as well. So you mentioned NVIDIA's RTX 50 series. So I feel like we should just jump into it. Mike has a little clip back there to show off the latest trailer of the 5090 series from NVIDIA. So a lot of cool stuff coming out of NVIDIA. They just won't stop. The train has to keep on rolling. So let me tell you a little bit about this game changer for streamers. The NVIDIA RTX 50 series GPUs powered by the revolutionary Blackwell AI processor represent a significant leap forward in AI-driven performance and real-time rendering capabilities. With their incredible power, these GPUs are poised to transform how streamers and content creators approach live production, gaming, and editing workflows. So some awesome imagery. They always have the coolest CGI. Brian, I'm going to hold you accountable for grading CGI on this level moving forward. If you're curious, there's 4 different models of these GPUs. The RTX 5090 starting at $1,999 and the 5080 starting at $1,000. So already, I think that $1,000 price tag, it is the lower end version, but it's still the top of the line GeForce card. So, Paul, what is this going to do for you? Like, how do you see this working in the market, and why is it important to get this next level graphics card?
I mean, I'm using a 4090. First of all, with laptops, okay, the laptops don't have the same power as the desktop
Yeah.
4090s and 5090s.
Sure.
So a 4090 desktop graphics card, I think, has a lot of power and can easily do 4K 60. Well, I shouldn't say easily, because 4K 60 is not easy. There's a lot of issues with 4K 60, and so it's just we're trying to do it. With this 5090, if it truly is twice as powerful, I think this is going to be the chance to do multi-camera 460 content.
Wow.
For gamers out there that are doing 4K 60, just if it's just one screen that they're capturing and maybe like a webcam or something, even they sometimes set up two computers, one to do the gaming and another one to do the streaming and production. So right now we're using two computers as well. We have one computer for, I believe it's a 4 or 5 camera production. And Mike, we might need to get rid of some of the cameras to get rid of the audio delay. You know, I mean, the answer usually is, if with 4K 60, it's like cut back the amount of sources so that your computer can handle it all. Whereas with 1080 60, we're so used to just adding as many as we can possibly need.
Yeah.
And it usually can work.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Tess? What do you think about this new Nvidia graphics card? You're a gamer yourself, more of a console gamer though.
Yeah, but not a game streamer, and I don't play on a PC either. So I'm not like the one to ask about this. I totally don't know anything about it. But our audience seems to, and some of them are mixed. Chad says just 1080 60 for us. We haven't been able to handle 4K and vMix just yet. And Chris is asking if vMix has approved these graphics cards for use with vMix.
Probably not. And I will say vMix is amazing with their reference systems. Yeah. They keep all of them. So every single vMix reference system they buy and keep in their office in Australia. And they don't, once they're done with them, they just put them in another room, because sometimes a customer will call and they'll be like, I bought your reference system and it says it should use 6 cameras. And like, let's say they're onto the new 5090 cars or whatever, they'll pull out one of the old ones and test it and see if it's capable of doing what the customer's asking for. So those vMix reference systems are not just like, hey, we think it can do this. They literally keep on hand all of those computers.
Yeah, they're benchmark testing. That's funny. I remember the first time I went to NAB New York with you, Paul. You introduced me to the vMix team, and my background from like the live stream platform, we use Livestream Studio, which for a long time was like a competitor neck to neck to vMix. Obviously, vMix has surpassed it by so much. They are an amazing platform with so much tools. But it was very surreal when you first introduced me to them. I'm like, how do you know these guys? And like, you're friends with them? And I'm like, what is happening right now? They used to be like a major competitor for my previous company. So it was weird at the time. But yeah, the nicest people too. Like, so nice.
Down to earth.
I don't know if it's, is it Australians or is it just them?
It is. Australian is part of it. Australia has a really great worldview where it's just like, well, it is what it is, mate.
It is what it is, mate.
That was a little British.
I'm not saying that's a good accent. It's just my impression.
Nice try, A for effort.
Tess, let's start a poll. Let's see if the audience, I want to ask you out there, are you interested in the RTX 5090? Are you going to buy it yourself? So Tess is going to set up a poll for us. She's just going to ask, are you going to buy the RTX 5090? And just yes or no. Or if you had a third option, maybe too expensive.
Did you say 5090?
Yep, 5090.
So is that a poll? How do the polls work?
So the poll will just get populated right on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
It's a YouTube poll, so you have to be in YouTube.
Oh,
to
wow, that's
you'll have to be YouTube if you're watching on YouTube.
I'm going to say yes to this. Oh, I can't answer it. I'm going to log into my personal one.
So we want to know from you out there. And a lot of people are talking about the AI integrations. I'm not really sure what that's going to be in terms of improved performance or what we're going to get out of it. A lot of people are really excited about with GPUs and increasing the power of a GPU, you're going to get a lot more opportunities to experiment, right? With virtual reality, with augmented reality. And that's something that we've seen a lot in the live streaming world. I think when you look at the NFL and you look at the WWE universe, these are two huge platforms that use augmented reality where they have huge floating things in the space, and there's all sorts of cool, crazy stuff. So I think there's a lot more opportunity to kind of give you, the user at home, way more flexibility, way more power. So that's really, really exciting. Paul, are we gonna buy one or what? Like, do we put in an order
We're
yet?
definitely
Is it
buying
in the
one.
budget?
Yeah, is
We
it in
might
the
buy
budget?
two.
2,000 bucks.
I want to get the one. I want to upgrade Mike's computer. In
Okay.
fact, the 5090 is creating a whole fiasco. I'll just explain it quickly. This broadcast PC in here, which is pretty powerful, has to get swapped for Mike's, and Mike's has to come over here because in order to support a 5090 graphics card, you have to have the latest PCIe Express lanes. It might be 4.0. I can't remember. So the computer Mike has will not accept the 5090.
Wow.
So I have to take that one over to here. Mike has to take this one over to there, swap the cards, and then that's one 5090. And then I just bought a laptop with 4090 to do that hockey stream, and it just doesn't do enough 4K 60. So I'm returning it, and then I'm going to wait a few months and get a laptop with a 5090 in it.
Wow. Okay.
Dang.
Okay, that's exciting. I'll have to talk to our CGI artist, Brian, because I'm sure he's very excited about this. I mean, the mentions of dynamic lighting and motion tracking all happening automatically with AI and all the tools that you'll get from this, you know, the real creators of the world, I think will benefit a lot, as well as, of course, the gamers and the streamers. We love all of them out there. So, Tess, how's the poll looking?
The
Yes or
majority
no?
of people, 64%, are not going to buy the
Interesting.
new capture card.
It's a price thing, you know,
Graphics
people
card.
wait, and you have to imagine, and you know, I'm not the biggest PC nerd. I don't know too much about all the hardware specs. I've never built a PC myself. I've just followed along a little bit. But what's the next for RTX? I mean, do they go to the 60 series from here? Or do they jump to, instead of the 5090, is it just the 6000? Like, and so would you then want to wait to get the latest and greatest? You know, they always come out every year basically with a new iteration.
It's
but
about 1 year. It used to be 2 years.
yeah.
Now they're moving at 1 year at a time. There's a lot of pressure on Nvidia right now. They're the world's most valuable company.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
And a friend of mine told me to buy their stock, and I was like, I just didn't really think about it.
How long ago?
Like before they became huge, like 2 years ago. The past 2 years have
Could've
been
taken
insane.
us
It was
all on
like
a yacht.
ChatGPT, and then
I think-
graphics card bonanza.
Yeah, I think you could go back even further. I think, okay, so if we want to break this down a little bit, I think you can go back to crypto being the first that does it, right? Because
Yeah.
crypto requires so much processing power. There's so many people out there that like wanted to mine cryptocurrency. So that kind of starts it. The pandemic then starts it because everyone needs a computer. Every IT producer out there, every video producer, they need cameras, but they also need a computer that can run
Yeah.
those cameras. And now we're here in the world where like streaming is more popular than ever. Gaming is growing and growing every year. So yeah, they kind of own the tech world right now, really. So basically what I was trying to say is like, are people waiting until either the RTX 5090 will get cheaper, like a lot of people do? A lot of people will probably go out the 5090s coming out. So that's pretty common. It's coming out. So
Yeah.
that's pretty common. I understand that. It's $2,000. I mean, you could buy a really nice computer for $2,000.
But it won't have a graphics card that
It
good.
won't have the 5090 though. But I bet you it'll play most of your games and it could probably stream a decent amount. So that is the Nvidia RTX 5090. I thought that was really cool, and all the mentions of the AI, and you can't escape those two letters in this world now. AI is everywhere and it's so popular. So I wanted to talk about AI and what's happening with Streamlabs and InWorld and Nvidia. So give me a little bit of video back there, Mike, and I want to see what we're looking at here when it comes to a chat AI bot. What does that mean? What's a chat AI bot?
Oh, I
So,
heard about this.
Here we have a collaboration from Streamlabs, Nvidia, and InWorld showing basically a gamer or streamer. Basically, Streamlabs obviously, as a lot of you know, is a great tool to help stream, but also helps kind of stay connected with your community. They're launching this AI model. I want to ask everybody in the chat below, if this is something that they are interested in, whether using, or do you want to see your content? Is this scary to you, or is this kind of exciting that we're making something more accessible and easy to moderate? A lot of these streamers online use moderation tools. They have whole teams to moderate chat. It's interesting to think about like what AI moderation can be, or even an AI co-host.
don't
Like-
replace me.
So this
Replace
guy,
me.
like, is it actually doing things in Streamlab for
It
you?
will based on prompting, similar to like a chat
So you
bot
could
of
literally
some
be like,
kind,
hey. So
or
you could literally be
ChatGPT.
like, hey, like, is it listening to your audio and being like, hey, do you want me to turn it up or down or something?
If you want, yeah. But it'll also like talk and have a conversation with you if you'd
Wow.
like.
Whoa.
So
I mean, that's kind of like a missing element, I'll say, from like streams. If you think about it, like you've got this chat and you're always talking to it,
yep.
right? To the audience, but the audience never talks back. So if it can be like the voice of the audience,
Yeah. It's
kinda
really
interesting.
Yeah. There's an assistant that offers real-time technical support and can function as a co-host, providing contextual relevant commentary during gameplay. So, I mean,
so is it like Tess? No, I'm just kidding.
you didn't
Not
hear
not as charming.
Yeah,
and-
Joking.
not as charming and sweet as Tess, but we're getting replaced. It's just gonna be Paul here.
No,
with
because
two
just,
AI
I'm
chat
sorry.
Bubbles that
I'm so,
look
I,
just
I
like
didn't
us.
mean that in a way, but it's like, okay, so it's your co-host, which you are my co-host. It's managing the chat,
Also doing that.
which is also what you're doing.
I'm
And
getting a little sweaty here.
and is it like talking on behalf of the chat, like being like, oh, there's a really good comment here? I doubt it works. There's no way it can do all that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's pretty limited of what it's able to do
I
now.
feel like we do have to try it though.
They're leaning a lot into technical support. I imagine there's so many people that have issues while they're streaming, and they're trying to like
Yeah.
cut down a barrier of entry here to make it easier than ever to stream. I don't know. I think of like your son,
Pretty
who's like almost
interesting.
10 years old, who like maybe he likes video games a lot, maybe he wants to stream, but if his mom wasn't in the AV industry, he would have no idea how to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
So, like,
lucky.
And that's what the AI is good at. It's probably like reading the logs, and it's like, oh, your RAM is peaking. Like
Yeah.
you clearly need to stop streaming in 4K 60.
Yeah, exactly.
It sort of makes sense.
I think, and they're really trying to make it customizable. They're trying to show this as something that you can personalize and make it almost like your little elf sidekick or your little buddy co-host, you know?
Mhm.
So I want to, if we can do another poll test, I would love to see what the audience thinks of this. Is this something that they would be interested in using themselves, either for technical support or a co-host? Or is this something that they would even want to watch from a streamer? So you could phrase it like, do you like a AI chatbot for streaming? Or do you not like it? I'm very curious to see what people think, because it removes a human element. Like, we like streamers. I don't personally watch many video game streamers, but I know it's huge and it's such a predominant form of entertainment now. But even outside of video games, like Kai Cenat and some of these really massive streamers, they're huge. But you want the human element, right? Like,
Well,
that's
why
why
can't
people
they
like
just
this.
have a human assistant then?
I think they can, and I think this is not really aimed towards Kai
Yeah.
Cenat and the huge platforms, that are on these Twitch and Kick and all these great streaming platforms. I think this is for the people like your son, Tess, who are like,
Right.
how do I get started?
Yeah.
And oh, my audio's off, but if like Tess, my mom wasn't listening right now, she wouldn't be there to tell me my audio levels are bad. So it's like the AI chatbot
Yeah.
is there to help you, right?
I agree. And that's what AI is super good at. Like when I use AI the most effectively, it's like, okay, I want to do something kind of weird in Adobe After Effects. Like I know I can do it, but it would take me I'd have to watch like 50 freaking YouTube videos to do
Yep.
it. So I'm just going to tell the AI exactly what I want to do, and it's going to walk me through it. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to tell it what the heck went wrong, and it's going to tell me how to fix it like immediately.
Yeah.
And so it sort of reminds me of that, where you're like, okay, I want to stream. And it seems like it's contextually potentially aware of the video game that it's playing, that you're
Yeah.
playing. So it's like, congratulations, Jim. You just beat some guy in Fortnite. And you're like, it's like, AI is good at that. Like being like, so like, it's kind of creepy because it's like ultra positive. It's
Yeah.
like very reinforcing. That's also where it gets scary, in my opinion, too. If your 10-year-old is already so into themselves that they want to stream themselves playing video games. And look, I'm just saying that's like normal, right? But at the same time, it's like, can't you just play video games? Why do you have to stream yourself playing video games?
Right.
Like, it's a little vain. I never did that when I was a kid, but they didn't have that when I was a kid.
I totally understand that, Paul, but I think when you look
But
at
then
it,
multiply it with AI,
Yeah.
and now you have an AI bot in the kid's 10-year-old's ear saying, "You look great, congratulations! You
Keep
just gained one
streaming."
follower. Like, let's make you even more vain."
I think you are right I think there's like a lot of benefits to this, but it is ethically kind of scary. But I think that kind of opens up the when you ask children. I mean, my fiance works in a middle school, and when she asks what do kids want to do when they grow up, they want to be a YouTuber
Yeah.
because they look to these people online, they idolize them, they like it a lot. So
It's about being like them
yeah,
and the potential of making money.
yeah,
doing
exactly.
it.
And being a kid, you can play video games, and that's a job.
But
So
seriously though, I mean, it's such a slippery slope.
it is. Yeah.
And also a Google Vid just came out where it like you give it an idea for a video and it just flipping makes it for you, the whole scene breakdown, and all you have to do is like change the titles and hit like export. And if it gets that easy, then suddenly studies are already coming out like people aren't thinking anymore. Like they're just not using their brains. They're just being like, and I'm even doing it. I feel
Just
bad to say it.
asking
Like I'm like,
AI.
this is a little complicated. Like, how should I respond to this? And it just does it. And you're like, okay. But then if you keep doing that, but then again, like, what is the world gaining from like having this very tricky thing called streaming and like kids not understanding how? Like, do they learn something from figuring it out themselves the old fashioned way?
Sure.
Or like literally, are we just going to be like so reliant on these AI bots? Like, what worries me is when like 10-year-olds, like if that's what this thing's aimed at, like 10-year-olds who are streaming,
Yeah.
and you're just like who do you like when you're a 10-year-old? It's like, who do you trust? Like, do you
Everyone.
start to trust these AI bots? And because these AI bots, they're not their parents, they're not trustworthy individuals, they are not human. So what could happen is that these AI bots are like literally it reinforces whatever the user wants. It does whatever you say. It's like a mirror. That's why it's like so egotistical. And it's like, okay, you're playing a game. You are the best human in the world right now. Oh, it's congratulations, like over the top. And it just self-reinforces this weird loop for kids.
It's kind of like the second and third place trophy in a way, right?
Yes.
Like if there's no first place, then you're all winners in a way. It's interesting. I think like the ethics of AI is still just so on the
I think
razor's
you should be
edge.
18. If you're gonna be, I don't think you should be. I think you need to be 18. I really do, and I think that'll happen in our lifetime. It's not going to happen today or this year, but we'll figure out in the future that psychologically
For them.
using, like, because this is no longer like even type in your question. This is like the thing has a face and it's
monitoring.
talking to you and it's in
Monitoring.
your game video. It's in your video game. And I'll take it one step further and I'll get off my soapbox. But what also is going to happen at the same time as all of this is that the actual NPCs, like the non-playable characters in the video games, are going to have this level of intelligence as well.
Yeah.
And kids are going to be falling in love with video game characters in the game because they've had such a deep conversation with them. So imagine you're a kid, you're
That's
playing a
scary.
role-playing game, let's call it World of Warcraft or
Sure.
whatever it is, and there's a sexy-looking female or male little nympho character, which is what the way they make these things look.
Do you
And
nymph?
you're talking to this thing and you're who knows what age, right?
Yeah.
And you're having these deep conversations. The more you talk to it, the more it knows about you. And then suddenly, it knows more about you than your parents do. And I hate to say that's true, but sometimes it actually is. Because the kids actually will open up to these characters and it's going to remember everything you tell it. It's a machine. And so suddenly these children are developing relationships with things that aren't real. And then suddenly that is dangerous, I think. Really
Yeah.
is dangerous.
It's interesting. I mean, I think the counter argument would be kids have always done that, but I can think to your credit that nothing's ever been this complicated and this powerful, right? Like a little girl or a boy, boys love GI Joe toys and girls love Barbies. Like they name them and they're like a person to them. They talk to them. They have tea parties with them, but they're not really talking back, right? In a way that makes them feel like truly like they're alive. And kids have a strong imagination. So is this like dampening kids' imaginations because they have to try not as hard to get there?
Here, I'll give you an example. Like my daughter, but like little girls especially, they love parrots.
Okay.
Believe it or not, because you can say something to it and it says something back. Like, hello, how are you? How are you? And they like it because it's like it acknowledges them and they say something back. This AI stuff does that too, but in a much deeper, stranger way. And I see some of the comments also, like, I forget who it just said, and then the ads start showing up, PC LAN party, right? It's like, oh, now all those private conversations that your kid had with a video game, it is suddenly now showing ads on your own.
Yeah,
Right.
because they talked about the Christmas gift that they want or some toy that they like. Tess, as a parent of 3 now, how do you feel about AI? Do your kids use it at all? Would you let your son use this chatbot AI for streaming?
I don't think I would. Certainly not. And it's even scaring me, this conversation about just letting him stream in general, though he wants to. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll wait to the teenage years for that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So he does want to stream?
He does. And the aspect of it that I like is him getting involved in technology and not engineering, but it feels a little STEMmy, learning how to stream and use the technology. And there's obviously career paths in it. I'm in it right now. So there's an element to streaming that I like for him, and content creation and being
Yeah.
creative and things like that. So, but I'm not sure about this AI bot.
It's really interesting. What is the poll saying? Are they interested in it, or is this a big no for
It's
them?
a big no, 83%.
83%. Wow.
Trent on here says, I've already done this with ChatGPT Plus. It's a great for quick answers to questions on streams, and the screen share helps a lot.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we certainly use ChatGPT. It's a very great tool to help organize and get information. I've used it for so many various different things. It's very helpful. But AI chatbot, I just thought that was so interesting. And we'll see. I mean, Streamlabs, these are huge companies that are kind of backing this. So we'll really see what it'll do to the market and if people really start using this, or do people really just want that human element when they come to a live stream? I think they do. So I'm going to lean into most people probably won't use this, but I think it'll be really helpful for technical support and kind of getting set up that way. Alrighty, now, Mr. Mike in the back, we are moving on to Anker's Solar Beach Umbrella.
Ooh, cool.
And you might be wondering why we're talking about an umbrella on the StreamGeeks podcast. Well, Mike's going to roll this clip of the Anker umbrella, and you're going to see exactly why we're talking about it. So this comes from Anker, a great power-reliant company that always just makes great batteries, portable batteries, chargers, all sorts of different stuff. They are now coming out with an umbrella with solar panels on the top. And I think this is so interesting because how many people out there are using cameras in the middle of nowhere? A lot. And even people over at PTZ Optics and using our cameras, they use cameras all the time. I mean, Paul, you recently filmed your son's soccer game outside. Could you have used this solar umbrella to
I'm
power?
sorry to think about that.
Yeah,
It was a very windy day, so I would not have been able to on that day. My God.
But I find it so interesting. Like,
this only works
you
in
can plug
sunny
into it.
environments that aren't windy.
yes, unless you really,
The winds have been rough right lately.
yeah, if you get some sandbags,
It's like,
and weigh
how
it
much can
down.
you really rely on it? Like, I'd rather, if I was going to rely on solar power, I
Uh-huh.
would get a solar panel because this thing, like, what is it? It is providing shade.
Yeah.
Like, that's good.
Uh-huh.
But it's also going to float away if it gets windy.
So this is equipped with integrated solar panels, which provides a sustainable and portable way to power devices outdoors. So think content creation, live streaming. I think a lot about sports. I mean, how many fathers and mothers out there want to like show their kids the footage from a game that they played,
Yeah.
and getting power outside in general can
It's
be very
tough.
hard. It can be really tough. I mean, even going to the hockey game, how many of those portable battery packs did we have?
We had a few. I'm like, so what type of power is this thing? Can I run a laptop off this thing?
I don't know if they've gotten into specific specs. This isn't even on the market. This was the first time they were showing it.
Okay.
And interesting, they're also showing a jacket with solar panels as well.
What?
That I like.
Yeah. Oh, so you're going to get the jacket then? Walk
Yeah, 'cause
around?
dude, I'm telling you,
It
with
won't
this
blow
thing, it's
away.
gonna blow away.
Yeah.
The last time I was streaming stuff, 'cause by the way, when I'm out there streaming soccer or whatever, I'm putting a camera on a tripod, like up like 20 feet. And when that wind starts hitting, the whole camera's going like this. So if I was powering my rig from an umbrella, the thing would be gone like Mary Poppins.
Like Mary Poppins.
I mean, I could see, I've joked around and said like we need to make a mascot like Mr. PTZ or something like that, or Mr. PDZ is kind of something we've discussed in the past. But I could see Paul wearing a solar panel jacket with two PDZ cameras mounted on either shoulder, right? Like almost like he's the Predator with a little weapon on the side of his.
Like we have with the little Samsung camera.
Yes, yes, you can just mount it on your shoulder. And Paul's just walking around the showroom floor with two PTZs on his shoulders. I love that. But it's really interesting. Like, I don't know how much it's going to cost. I feel like that's a huge barrier of entry. Is this a $299 umbrella, or are we talking like $599? Anker is a great company in terms of like reliability and price. I feel like they fall kind of in the middle from a lot of these more less affordable, very expensive like Samsung different drives and all sorts of different things that Anker does. But Tess, what do you think of this umbrella?
What do I think of this umbrella? I like.
What
I
question?
think I like Paul like the jacket better,
Okay.
but I don't understand if it's like literally an outlet attached to it that you plug in.
Yeah, I couldn't even. That was the video from Anker themselves,
Okay.
and the videos that I read about, or the articles I read about The Verge and some other articles, they're not really detailing too much about it. I don't know if there's USB ports. I would imagine that there is an outlet, like a DC powered outlet, maybe at the bottom that you can plug into, maybe like a USB-C and USB
Yeah.
port.
Wow.
Key Clan Party says if they made a 48 by 48 floppy with solar panels, that might be interesting and useful. Video Village cover.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of different power sources out there, and there's already tons of companies that make solar panels. I just thought it was interesting. A company as big as Anker jumping into making them wearable as well as an umbrella, which, I mean, it fits hand in hand. I've talked to so many people out there that are using PTZ cameras, and they either put a garbage can over them, or they're like under an umbrella, or they're like hiding in a little pergola, just trying to keep the camera protected. So why not add power to that as well? I thought that was so interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So people at home, what could you use this for? Is this something that you would use at home? Let us know. Is there certain like outdoor streaming that you've done in the past? Also, let us know about that. I'm really curious to see where people have streamed. If there's a really weird place that you've
The
streamed
craziest
outdoors.
place you've streamed.
Yes, the craziest place you've streamed. I'm
Let us
very
know in the
curious.
chat.
Let us know in the chat. Alrighty. Mr. Mike, we're moving on now. I want to talk about, we mentioned augmented reality earlier. I want to talk a little bit more about these holiday, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, smart glasses. So this is a full ad from Holiday, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. The Holiday smart glasses revealed this year at CES feature a built-in 3.5-inch display for augmented reality experiences. These glasses are designed for seamless connectivity and interactive capabilities, providing new opportunities for live productions with real-time overlays for audience engagement. These
And
are
they're cute.
yeah, they're not too bad. I mean,
Whoa.
they're priced at $489. Paul, you recently tried the Meta Ray-Ban
I do like those.
collaborations, which stream 1080p to Facebook directly. Would you use this, Paul?
So can I just understand what's going on? Like, are the is it shining onto the glass and you're seeing it there? Or is it shining into your eye?
It's
got to shine onto the glass.
It's
right?
on the glass,
Yeah.
basically. It's a screen built into it, and they're not showing it. My guess is that this doesn't work very well,
Yeah.
based on the ad that they're showing. It's very
That's probably the lead engineer right there.
yeah, it's very produced, and they're not really showing you the technology in the
Right.
screen itself. And
Might be really hard to do that.
it
though.
might be really hard to do that. You're right, Paul. I think it's either a challenge of
But there's got to be a way to like put a camera through that lens, right?
and show it of some kind. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the thoughts of this, again, ethically, is this distracting you while you drive, while you're walking down the street, crossing a lane? You know, like, is this good for humanity? I think is a big
And it comes
question.
with a ring, it appears.
A supported ring.
A
I think it's a
supported ring
separate
to-
attachment.
I think
you
that
could
ring's
buy.
pretty cool
to
too because
control
like
it.
think about this though from like humans buy toys, like we like tech,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
it's like here's a ring, here's some glasses. It's so much more real than like a ChatGPT subscription.
Yeah. What do you think of those Ray-Ban Meta glasses that you got?
I was impressed. Although I, of course, as a stream geek, had to dive deep into the video quality, and I was like, it's not even 1080.
What,
So
what is
that-
the
that
quality? I thought it was 1080. It's a little under, right?
It's it really only stream from a streaming perspective. It really only would stream to Meta apps, so Facebook and Instagram. So it would only do portrait video, and the videos that it recorded that you could like post online were a very strange resolution. It wasn't like 1920 by 1080. And so at the end of the day, I was like, it's cool. It really is. I like the AI built in. I liked listening to music from my glasses, but also having my ears open.
Sure.
So like I remember like I was actually at a meeting with them on, and I was like listening to smooth jazz, but no one knew that I was listening to smooth jazz.
I love that. That's great. I think AR is not going anywhere.
It looks like the little thing shines into your eyeball, though.
I don't know how that could be possible, though. I don't know how legally you could shine a light into someone's eye.
That doesn't sound good.
I feel like it has to be displayed just directly on the screen.
But the little ring is slick, though.
It's a
I
cool
could see
gadget.
people liking that. Just like, oh yeah, I'm just
People
like
love to
flicking my
fidget.
little. It's like the ultimate fidget.
Yeah, it definitely is.
What I like about it too is that like you're kind of people like to be in their own worlds. Like how many people are introverts? It's probably the majority of people are introverts.
Sure, probably, yeah.
And it almost is like this is leaning into that AI thing a little bit too. I read this statistic that like if you ask people in a group setting how they're doing, like 90% of people will say fine or good.
Yeah.
But then if you ask that same person in a private setting, they will let you know they are not doing good.
Not
like
okay.
80% of people. So like most people in the world are not doing okay. Like they may, but when they're in a public, like they're showing, all these people are being shown in a public setting. And so when you're in this public setting, in your glass, like you're expected to be whatever you're expected to be from the world. But now suddenly you've got your own lens over everything and a little controller to like turn down the volume of everybody. No one knows. Like it's like your own little reality.
Yeah.
And that part of it, I think people really want.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it all kind of is coming together. I think we're at the very early steps still. I mean, VR and augmented reality have been around for a good amount of time. And I know obviously Meta, Mark Zuckerberg was recently just on Joe Rogan, and he was downplaying Apple's Vision Pro, which is their kind of VR augmented reality headset. It does a little bit of both. And he was talking about how their Meta Quest, which is their $300 VR headset, is better than Apple's Vision Pro, which is $3,500, I believe. So that is a bold claim. I'm sure the hardware and overall the look of that product looks so much nicer than the Meta Quest. But I think the future of VR and AR is not going anywhere. Like, would you buy a VR headset, Tess? Have you ever bought one?
We have one. We have the Oculus at home.
Okay. Do you use it very often?
I have used it not often. My son uses it not often either.
There you go. And he's like the prime audience for it.
He is.
He's a young man who...
He goes through phases.
Okay. What does he play, though? Like, what would he play?
He plays PS5
and
Switch.
But on the MetaQuest, like when he's using VR.
We do ping pong. We do like walk the plank, the game that we played in the VR plays, Paul.
Sure.
There's a zombie game he plays where you kill the zombies.
Yeah, there's a lot of different game modes that you can play for VR headsets, but I think the future is in VR or a mix of the two. I do believe that Apple's going to come back and they're going to release a product that's going to rival the MetaQuest, and I think it's going to blow people out of the water. I think when we get these prices down to iPhone costs, when they're $1,000, $1,500, and they're cord wireless, no cord at all, that's when you're really going to start to see people investing money into these different headsets and things. Paul, do you see like VR and augmented reality as the potential future, or do you think it's just like a little pepper, a little flavoring that people will add to video in the future?
I mean, here's the thing. It's all video.
Yeah.
And that's what Andrew Cross said at one of his keynotes recently. It's like, why is everyone arguing about like AR, VR, 360 video, streaming? It's all just video.
Yeah, it is.
And like when you look at like the Apple glasses, right? What do you like? What is one of the primary things people do with that? Like they like watch a movie. It's still just a movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you can like make it look super big, and I think that's cool. I never even tried them, but it's all just video.
Yeah.
So it really nothing has changed from the sense that like we need to make good video. what I like to make is live video. Some people like to spend years directing produced videos and editing it all and everything.
Yep.
But it's all just video to me. Whether you're viewing it, so basically what the consumers just get more choices. Do you want to see it in your glasses? Do you want to see it on your TV? Like at our home, we have like a Samsung frame,
Okay.
and that was cool. We were like, whoa, like the TV can look like a painting when we're not watching it.
Yeah,
like
they're really beautiful.
so everyone's just getting so many more options, but there's still just so much more video.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's just more choices on consuming video.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think, especially when you look at Apple, they actually just on Apple TV released their first, what they're calling like an Apple Vision or VR film. So it's a film that was created with like 360 cameras, and it's all about a submarine that's either like sinking or under attack or something like that. And it's a short film. I think it's only like half hour or like an hour long. But you can watch that with your headset on, and it's like you're in the environment. So you can turn, you can look all around, and
Oh, that's crazy.
yeah, and it's a real film. We're not talking about a digital world that's video game or made in Unreal Engine. It's an actual physically filmed location. So I do think that's the future, honestly. I think it's going to change a lot in the next 10 years, and I think we're only at the very beginning. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to come out of this. I think it's really exciting about all the potential that we can get from these new technology. It's just been so long since there's been a product like the iPod, like the Apple, like the iPhone or the
Yeah.
or the iPad. Like there's just not been that revolutionary tech, and I'm just waiting for it. I feel like we're on the verge of that happening in the next 5 years. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, and I think ChatGPT is way overvalued, honestly.
You used to be the biggest advocate for
No,
it too.
I love it. I really do. But just recently, there was a team of technology experts in China that developed an AI model for $6 million, which might sound like a lot, but ChatGPT spent like how many billions? And
Yeah.
so like all of this AI stuff is going to be very ubiquitous. And so, while ChatGPT was pretty amazing, like it's as you said, it's not like an iPhone game changer. It was like a text interface that went back and forth.
Huh.
Like it
Yeah.
finally allowed you to chat with AI.
Yeah.
Like and everyone was like, oh shit, this is crazy. And it really did change the world. But it's not like a device that is going to have like 12 generations like an iPhone, I don't think. I
Right.
think that ChatGPT is going to just be integrated into everything. And it really becomes valuable when you look like Google Vid that we were looking at. It's like, this is AI that makes the entire video for you. Like that's really getting the AI, like these first gen of AI tools just being like chat based is great and
Yeah.
everything. But it's like Gen 5 is when AI is going to, I think, really take off. And we're at like Gen 3, I think.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, with Sora just coming out recently, I think we're on a path that we just don't know where it's going. It's moving so fast and it's moving so rapidly. I think it's only going to continue to grow and get a little scarier, but hopefully these tools are all really helpful for all of us,
Yeah.
and then we all get a lot out of them, So, Paul, how many books do you think you've written since you've started StreamGeeks?
I know it's more than 10.
It's more than 10? That's
more
more
than
than I
10.
was expecting.
I think I'm working on my 12th.
Wow.
By the way, 10 of them were written before ChatGPT. This one that I'm
Boo.
working
Take
on now
notes.
was written. I used, yeah, you know me. I'm not going to say that I didn't use ChatGPT to help me with this book.
It's
It's the thickest.
Look
I've
how
seen.
thick it is. That's one of the problems. I'll tell you, one of the things about ChatGPT and writing books, because like I use it as a writing assistant. I really do. But the problem with it is it'll basically, I'll be like, this is what I need you to write about. Like, here's the bullet points. Like, write me 5 paragraphs on this. And I have an editor too. So like I have me, an editor, and ChatGPT all together.
Right.
But the problem with ChatGPT is you can so clearly see it makes one good point and then is repetitive for 3 sentences.
Yes.
And then another good point and then repetitive for 3 sentences. And
Yep.
it doesn't seem like a real author would write that. So it's like, it's helpful to get the words on the page, but then pretty much 2/3 of it has to be removed.
because it's not like analyzing things, right? Like it just giving you spitting out information, but it's not
Yeah.
thinking about it
Maybe
in
it
the way
doesn't know
human
that it's
does.
redundant because it doesn't have the context or something.
No, I don't think it does. And there's different variations of ChatGPT that you can use. But something I'm glad you brought this up though, because it's interesting. You've written so many of these books on very big topics like OBS, like vMix, or recently with remote production. How like ChatGPT is probably using some of the information
Oh, it
from those
definitely is.
books.
Yeah.
So like you then reusing your own content basically. You're like it's
Yeah.
an infinity
Where are
loop.
the original thoughts coming
And
from?
you don't know. A lot of the sources are never listed. You can ask for sources and they'll try to give it to you, but it's never really that detailed, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, that's the value of a book, I have to say too. It's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's hard to just go to ChatGPT and be like, teach me about sports video. A, can you even trust it? And in what like order is it going to deliver that information to you? The way I wrote this book, Sports Video, which is going to be out soon. It's not quite out yet. I do have it on ptzoptics.com/sports. You can download where I'm at with it.
Okay.
I'm letting people, I've
It's
never
the
done
beta
this
book.
before. I'm like letting, and I actually I met with a guy who had downloaded the PDF and printed it out. And I was like,
Whoa.
Wow.
and that was like a couple months ago. So I've made a lot of progress. For my research for this book, I streamed my son's like youth sports. Then I streamed like high school sports. Right? I met with Salesianum football. We did hockey 2 nights ago. And then I
Lacrosse.
actually did professional sports. And I
Yeah.
did professional. I think I'm allowed to say that I live streamed or recorded the Philadelphia Wings lacrosse. I
think
just
so.
They
can't.
just don't want
I
us
can't
to-
show any of the footage
Yeah, use the footage.
because we don't have the rights to use it. But anyway, this book I did in 3 sections. So I rewrote the whole thing twice now because I was doing about how to live stream sports, right? How to
Right.
record sports. And I
You
realized that
learned a lot through actually doing it.
coaches want something completely different than what like video producers and fans want. So coaches want like sports analytics, like they want to make the team better. They want to like give athletes the ability to be like, hey, the defensive line is falling back in these areas and we need our offense to focus on this. So they need KPIs to
It's
be like,
analytics,
here's
yeah.
your percentage of tackles over the season. I want you to get to 80%. You're at 50 now, that kind of stuff. So I decided to write it first. The first 4 chapters are for coaches and athletics directors, laying the foundation for sports broadcasters, video production experts like ourselves to understand the coaches first, because they really are the heart and soul of the team, I think.
Yeah.
You know, they're like the brains behind the operation from a team perspective. Then I break it down to level 1 video production systems, portable streaming systems, and level 2, meaning if you're a coach and you want to try to do this yourself or have a friend or work with a volunteer, it's like, let's not get too techie.
Right.
Then section 3 starts to do, you know, multi-camera setups, sports production techniques, you know, AV techniques and all that stuff. So this is one of the first times I was like, I need to rewrite this so that I can at least have coaches with 0 AV background get into sports video, because sports video is a game changer. It is like every sport is doing some form of video, even if it's just moms on the side of the thing doing that. It's like, if they could only make some highlight reels and then I'll give you an example. Like the first sports game I ever streamed, I didn't even stream it. I'm just recording most of those stuff. I'm not even streaming it. It was my son's had 3 games in a row. It was a tournament. And it was kind of like, if you lose, you're out,
Sure.
but he kept freaking winning.
So
So
stay.
I
Oh,
recorded
no.
the first game. My battery like was almost dead. Then and so I learned so much about like how to do portable systems and everything. I'd like charge it in the 45 minutes till the next game. Then a second game. And I'm like, I'm recording these games. No one's going to watch these like hour and 30-minute games of like 9-year-olds. I'm like, what am I doing? And I get back home and I'm looking at the footage. Like, no one's going to watch these games. Like it's who, and even some guy came up to me and was like, why are you streaming these kids? Like, you don't have their consent to record these games. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm from the StreamGeeks. I have consent. No, I'm just kidding. But no, honestly, some people are like, even at the hockey game on Monday, some dude was like drinking
Whoa.
beer and he was like, what are you doing here? Why are you recording this game? Because they don't get it. But you know what ended up happening? I took those 3 games, 3 hours of video, and I just cut out all the goals, and I made my son and the players on his team look like pros. Because every minute it was like, goal, 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 go. You take 3 hours, you turn it into 5 minutes, And then everybody on the team was like, "Thank you so much. This is so amazing. We're so
Aw.
excited for next season." And so that's the thing about sports is you got to capture the whole thing because you never know when a goal is going to happen. And then you got to cut that up and make that highlight reel. Going full circle to where we started this game, I did that Iceline hockey game. The first thing I did was I chopped it all up and gave them all the highlights.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if you want to show this, Mike, or not. You don't have to. But then I figured out a way with Adobe Premiere to put little circles around the players who you highlighted. Because once you've recorded, like as a viewer of video, you don't know who's going to make the goal. Like you
Right.
don't know who to look at. But if you're looking at a recording, you know you can scrub backwards in time and be like, oh, that's the guy who's about to score the goal.
Yeah, sure.
And then in Adobe Premiere, you can put a little ring around them. And that way, and ESPN does this, right? And like this is not new in any way. But for high school level sports, it is.
It looks pro for a high school level sport. Yeah.
And that's when the kid goes, oh my gosh, maybe I could become a pro.
Yeah.
And that's where their motivation comes from in sports. So it's exciting. And it's got to be live streamed
Mhm.
or it has to be captured live. You know what I mean? You can't like, it's not something that can be like, it's not acting.
Yeah.
You have to capture this stuff live.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very dramatic. And
Chad says he knows for a fact that PTZ Optics cameras are used in MLB and NHL.
oh, interesting.
That's pretty
Ooh.
cool.
Very cool. I did speak to a minor league baseball team recently
Oh, did
that's trying to get our cameras out there. So that's really exciting. Paul, do you remember the first book you ever wrote?
I do.
What was it?
And then PC Land Party has a question I want to answer. But the very first book that I wrote is probably not that great. But I did write it. I'm pretty
guess.
sure it was something about marketing and live streaming. I think it
Oh,
was
okay.
like
Remember we
StreamGeeks
used Smarketing?
smart marketing. I think it was.
Smarketing.
I think I do remember what it was called. It was called Live Streaming is Smart Marketing.
Oh,
And
okay.
there were things in there that I thought were really hip and cool that we don't even do today. Back then, I was a little like wild marketer. I was really
Yeah.
more of a marketer than I was a video pro.
Right.
Although I had some background in video, obviously, and I knew what I was doing. But like we would do like a press release for a StreamGeeks live stream.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like stuff like that. And I actually wrote that in the book. I was like, you want to get more views? Like
Check
do
it
it.
out on Vista today.
Yeah, like I was doing a press release, like, all right, world, like the Stream Geeks are going live and Friday at 2. And so we have like 4 subscribers, and I need like every press outlet in the country to know it. But I made that. I did a book about marketing, and it had a lot to do about like building a lead funnel, like how do you capture like
So we
everything
had
that
HubSpot.
it really laid out all the things that were actually working for us. Now, PC Land Party said, can PTZ Optics cameras do multiple virtual cameras such as 4K capture? And I was just thinking about this. This is a big value of 4K cameras. So currently, you can actually get 2 streams off the cameras. But I was just thinking about this because there's a lot of value in this. If you bring a 4K 60 camera into vMix, let's say, you can create a virtual camera of it and then zoom in 2x or 3x
Okay, sure.
and have 2 camera angles or 2, like a zoomed in view, a tight view, and a wide view.
Yeah.
So I think that's a wonderful thing. The PTZ Optics cameras, I have put this feature request in. You were there at the last stream. I was like,
Yeah, that was
can
my
we do
reaction.
this, guys? So they said something like, before we get a virtual output like that, like we're describing here, we're closer on controlling 2 cameras at once,
Yep.
which also has its own benefits.
Yeah.
Because one of the huge benefits of this is, like right now, when I went and streamed hockey and I went and streamed lacrosse, I would have 1 camera operator for a wide shot and then 1 camera operator for a tight shot. But if you've got 2 video feeds coming off the 1 camera, you only need 1 camera operator.
Mhm.
So cutting down on manpower is always good because there's
Yeah.
never enough people to
Right.
help you.
You are kind of like a technician when you use a PTZ camera, right? Like it's a robotic camera. You can control in so many different ways with PTZ setups and controlling them combined with other cameras. Paul, I'm curious, Mike, you also have a little still that you can show of some of the books that he's written. So I kind of picked out these 3 books that Mike's going to show here that kind of represent maybe the basics, I would say. So if you're looking to get into obviously live streaming, you want to maybe know about a switcher and how you're going to use that switcher. So OBS being one of the most popular, vMix also being very popular as well. And then the future, I think, of production is remote, right? So when we're thinking remote production, we have a great Hive Studio software that we're coming out with this year from PTZ Optics that's really going to change remote production. But Paul, would you say that these are kind of like the three if you were to want to get started? I almost included the NDI book, but I figured
Yeah.
the remote production book, it has a huge section about how to use NDI. So
It does.
I feel like this kind of covers your major steps if you're just getting started and you want to learn about live streaming.
Yeah, those are the most popular. The other super popular one, it's so funny. I came out with it in 2019. Was how to help your church live stream.
Yeah, classic.
And that was a really popular one. So and that one was kind of like the sports video where I'm like, okay, I'm writing this for coaches first. With helping your church live stream, I actually wrote it for pastors first.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but like basically it's like trying to get down to the level of the person whose job it isn't to stream. Like
Yeah.
the pastor's job is not to stream, but he eventually realizes in order to reach the largest congregation, he wants to have some streaming system. And the problem is a lot of these volunteers come and go, and they don't maybe have an AV person. So the pastor's kind of stepping in to at least shepherd a video program into place. And so coaches, I think, are the same way. It's like they want to be able to review the play. And if one of their players wasn't out of bounds, but the ref said they were, they want to have that tablet and be like, yo, dude, I got some tech over here telling me
In
that
your
he
face.
did get a touchdown, mother trucker. You know what I mean? And that puts the power into the coach's hands. Pastors in a way are the same way. It's like, a pastor reads my book and then he goes to the AV guy and he's like, yeah, are we streaming to Facebook too? And the guy's like, oh, you want a multi-stream? And he's like, yeah, I read Paul's book, Helping Your Church Live Stream.
There
I
you
know what I'm
go.
doing.
There you go. So Stream Geeks, we love to spread the wealth. We want to educate and have a fun time doing it. So Mike, you have a slide back there that shows basically where you can find Stream Geeks, where you can find PTZ Optics, and you can go to streamgeeks.us if you're interested in learning about some of those books. If you want to know more about remote production, Paul has a whole website dedicated to remote production, the ins and outs, and how it's growing faster and faster every day. Remote photography is something that we're really interested in this year, and how you're able to kind of use not just a PTZ camera, but just control cameras remotely for photography. And of course, if you're looking for PTZ camera, PTZ control, or even a fixed frame camera, go to ptzoptics.com and you'll find a lot of good stuff there and a lot of great solutions for you. So I want to thank both Tess and Paul, and thank you, Mike, back there.
John.
Well, thank you, Tess. I
You
appreciate
did a
that.
great
And
job.
thank
I'm
you
really
Yeah,
impressed.
good
to
job.
the Switchmaster in the back. Thank you, Mike, for running the whole show for us here. This is the Stream Geeks podcast. We are back, and we're going to be here on the second Wednesday of every month. I want to thank you all for joining me, and we will be back very soon to talk more. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and we will be back to see you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye now.
Bye.